We're back. Let's see what else we've been given to disprove evolution. 6. Chaos from organization. The second law of thermodynamics expresses the universal principle of decay in nature. Chaos must come from organization, not the other way around as evolution suggests. God's perfect creation has been moving towards chaos since the fall of man. The second law of thermodynamics talks about a closed system, meaning one that does not acquire new energy. The biosphere on the Earth is constantly getting energy added to it, mainly from the sun. It also has to be noted that heat comes from pressure from inside the Earth as well. The second law states that a closed system will eventually reach entropy. The energy that the Earth receives is less than the sun loses, so between the two, entropy is occurring. Eventually, it will experience heat death, at which point the energy of the universe will effectively be zero. I will concede, at that point, evolution will probably no longer be occurring. But now, while we're on the small portion of the universe, the Earth, which does receive energy, in this case from the sun, evolution, and also life, is possible and occurring. 7. Fixed chromosome count. All species have a fixed number of chromosomes that cannot be changed. This is why one species cannot mate with another. If an animal had one more or one less chromosome because of a mutation, it could not successfully mate. Scientists have mated lions and tigers in zoos to make ligers, but these animals are always sterile. Let's look at chromosome 2 in humans, the longest of our chromosomes. All other apes, except for humans and our close relatives like Neanderthals, have 24 pairs of chromosomes, while humans have 23 pairs. Chromosome 2 is the fusing of two chromosomes to make one large one, a change that allowed us to develop into the humans we became, but are technically still apes. The information from the first pre-human with fused chromosomes was still roughly the same as the original unfused pairs. As our ancestors slowly changed, they also slowly lost the ability to breed with their ancestors as the different paths diverged. Sterile hybrids, like ligers and zorses, are sterile because they have diverged enough to not produce viable offspring, but still produce something. This actually strengthens the theory of evolution, showing that two species can be closely related enough to have offspring, but still distant enough that the offspring are not viable, while creatures that are even further apart, like say dogs and cats, are so distantly related they will never be able to have any kind of offspring, viable or not. 8. Mitochondrial Adam and Eve. Several different scientific studies have traced the DNA of the human race back to a single man and woman who lived about 6,000 years ago. According to evolutionists, humans gradually evolved from monkeys, yet the DNA that scientists have discovered hasn't changed for over 6,000 years. Yes, DNA hasn't changed much in 6,000 years, which isn't much on an evolutionary timescale. But really, we haven't changed much, apart from cosmetic differences, in about 200,000 years. If we were to go back that far in time, we would still successfully be able to mate with a human from that era. The mitochondrial Eve that you're talking about is, in scientific circles, the most recent female ancestor that all humans can trace their lineage to through their mothers, and probably existed between 99 and 148,000 years ago. Since, as I mentioned, humans have been around for much longer than that, she was not the first woman, just the most recent female ancestor, traceable through maternity, of all humans alive right now. There would be no mitochondrial Adam, since you can't trace mitochondrial DNA through men, because there is no mitochondrial DNA in sperm. The most recent male that all men can trace their paternity through would have been the Y-chromosomal Adam, who would have existed 120 to 156,000 years ago. Even calling it Adam is a bit of a misnomer. Theoretically, if they're using the Bible as a naming convention, the closest male that could be traced back through paternity would have been Noah, who, according to that story, supposedly lived 4,000 years ago. Yeah, it's a real word. Unless TV has lied to me.
Supposedly. Supposedly. Did they go to the zoo? Supposedly.
In any event, there is no evidence that the mitochondrial Eve and the Y-chromosomal Adam would have been contemporaries, and most likely would have lived thousands of years apart, neither of them being the first human beings. Both of them would have lived millennia before the biblical Adam or Eve would have existed. 9. The Cambrian Explosion. The deepest fossil layers contain simple bacteria, yet right about these layers is what is known as the Cambrian Explosion, a fantastic variety of species, including vertebrates. Where's the missing link between the bacteria and all these species? Yes, there was a 20 to 30 million year time span known as the Cambrian Explosion. Explosion in this case relates to geological time. There were multicellular creatures before the Cambrian Explosion. The problem with finding their remains is that hard bodies did not really develop until the Cambrian era, and soft-bodied creatures are notoriously difficult to fossilize. So, there's less of a chance for their remains to be preserved. That's why the Burgess Shale is such a monumental find. It had just the right conditions to preserve the forms of many soft-bodied creatures from the Cambrian Explosion, along with the newer, hard-bodied creatures like trilobites. The thing that must be remembered is that the environment changed just prior to the Cambrian Explosion. It's theorized, among other things, that the increase in oxygen in the environment could have been one of the variables that allowed a sudden increase in mutations to account for the vast diversity found in the Burgess Shale. Another is that the mass extinction prior to the Cambrian period opened up a number of ecological niches to be exploited. 10. The human race. The Bible tells us that God created man in His image. No other species even comes close to being as intelligent and sophisticated as we are. If we evolved from monkeys, shouldn't there be a species that comes close to our level of intelligence? Okay, we didn't evolve from current-day monkeys. We share a common ancestor with them, but diverged tens of millions of years ago. It's theorized that our ancestors evolved on the plains of Africa after needing to leave the safety of the trees. We were not well adapted to this new environment, but we were able to use simple tools. This meant that our burgeoning intelligence had to evolve and increase so we had a better chance to survive. As our ancestors got better at tool use, we edged out that niche of other intelligent tool-using apes, like Neanderthals. It was just luck of the draw that our ancestors were in the perfect place at the perfect time to develop intelligence. Other creatures didn't evolve similar levels of intelligence because, frankly, they didn't need to. Again, another article that failed to convince me. That's all for this week. See y'all again next time.